Beethoven composed this piece in or around 1810 when he was about 39 years old. Although this piece is commonly known as Für Elise, several Beethoven scholars have suggested that the name Elise was probably a misreading of the name Therese in the original inscription, referring to Teresa Malfatti, and documents suggest that Beethoven was in love with her around the time he composed this music. Although it sounds like a simple piece, there are many interesting details which I will point out. The key of this composition is A minor, and the time signature indicates that the meter is 3/8, meaning that there are 3 beats in each measure, and the basic rhythmic value is an 8th note. This piece starts with an incomplete measure, and the dynamic level at the beginning is pianissimo, meaning very soft. The form of this composition is rondo, which can be described as a musical structure where a main theme alternates with other themes. The word theme here refers to a melody that functions as the basis for a composition. There are 3 themes in this piece, which will be labeled with the letter names A, B, and C. In this composition, the opening melody is the main theme, and it appears 2 more times later on. I will call this theme A, and the whole section containing theme A from the beginning through measure 22 will be called section A. This section is in 2 parts. The first part is 8 measures long. And this is repeated as indicated in the score. This is a very expressive melody, and it is interesting that it begins with 2 alternating pitches, E and D sharp, which creates a feeling of pleading, asking intently. We will hear these 2 notes repeated more extensively later on. After repeating the first part, we take the second ending in measure 8. The second part, which is 14 measures long, starts in C major, which temporarily brightens the mood, and the melody is slightly changed, climbing up to a higher note, F in measure 9. But it soon goes back to A minor. In measure 12, we have a transition where the pitch E is repeated several times in different octaves. This note is important as the 5th scale degree of A minor, called the dominant. Then the 2 alternating notes D sharp and E are repeated insistently, starting in measure 13. All this in the transition builds a sense of expectation or suspense, preparing us for the return of the opening melody in measure 14. Let me play from measure 12 through the end of the second part in measure 22. The second part is also repeated. This section A can be considered to be in 2-part or binary form. A more specific term is rounded binary form, in that the melody of the first part comes back in the second part. The second ending of the second part in measure 22 leads us to the next theme, a new melody distinct from theme A. I will call this theme B, and the section containing theme B will be called section B. This theme starts in F major. Then it goes to C major. Then the delicate melody in 30-second notes in measure 30. In comparison with theme A, theme B sounds livelier, with the major keys giving a happier, lighter feeling. In measure 34, we have a transition that builds toward the return of theme A. This transition primarily features the repeated 2 notes E and D sharp. Let me play from measure 34. This leads us to a restatement of theme A. This A section is same as the opening A section, except that there is no indication for repeating the two parts. Right after concluding the restatement of theme A, a new theme appears in measure 60 to be labeled theme C. And the section containing theme C will be called section C. This theme is very different from the previous themes in that it presents a contrasting mood of dark, brooding quality with a sense of agitation. Let me play from measure 60. There is a feeling of heightened tension, and two main factors contribute to that. First, the left hand repeats the pitch A in the bass like a drum beat. This creates an effect of increased intensity, and another note is added to the bass in measure 64 through measure 67 for fuller harmonic effect. The pitch of the repeating bass note gradually and chromatically rises, which also contributes to the feeling of rising tension. Starting from the pitch A, it goes to B flat in measure 71, B natural in measure 74, and then C in measure 75. Second, the harmony becomes very tense and dissonant in this section, especially through the use of diminished chords, which have been traditionally considered to be dissonant and unstable. For example, in measure 60 and measure 68, the right hand plays a diminished seventh chord, which against the A in the bass produces a very dissonant sound. This resolves to D minor chord in the following measure. In measure 62, there is a diminished chord, a triad, in the right hand, again forming a harsh dissonance against the bass, resolving to an A minor chord in measure 63. In measure 65, we hear a diminished seventh chord, which resolves to an A minor chord in measure 66. There is another diminished seventh chord in measure 74, resolving to A minor in the following measure. Another interesting thing about the harmony is the sudden and surprising introduction of B flat major in measure 71, which is a half step above the tonic of A minor. Let me play from measure 69 through measure 73. Then after the diminished seventh chord in measure 74 and the A minor chord in measure 75, the section ends with a dominant chord in measure 76, a chord built on E, the fifth scale degree of A minor. It is fascinating the way Beethoven builds tension and intensity in this section, conveying emotional urgency and an unfolding drama right before theme A returns for the last time. In this sense, section C can be considered to be the emotional climax of the whole piece. There is a transition in measure 77 before the return of theme A, starting with a mysterious sounding arpeggios, meaning broken chords, in pianissimo, meaning very soft. Then in measure 80, we hear a descending chromatic scale playing all adjacent keys on the piano black and white for an octave and a half. Theme A finally comes back in measure 82, giving a feeling of relief or resolution of the tension in the previous section. Let me play from measure 77 to the end. It has a very simple ending, just the pitch A in octaves in measure 103. The overall structure of the piece can be outlined by using the letter names of the themes in the order of appearance. It is A, B, A, C, A. This is a typical structure for rondo form in that the main theme, A, keeps returning, alternating with other themes, B and C. In this sense, theme A functions as a refrain or an anchor, which gives a feeling of balance and coherence to a composition, while the other themes provide contrasts. In this short composition, Beethoven expresses a range of emotions conveyed by different themes. To me, the underlying emotion of the recurring theme A seems to be longing. Theme B brightens the mood. Then theme C seems to express some kind of emotional turmoil. Then the last restatement of theme A calms it down.